Hey there folks, welcome you all to yet another vlog of mine. It's a Saturday, people, instead of a Friday, so flaggins up to you all. It's flaggins up Saturday. I was on a little bit of a quest this week, a little bit of a gaming quest, and I wanted to get some things finished up last night. It was one of the reasons I didn't do it last night, as I normally would on a Friday. And plus I wanted to have a few beers watching the old Eurovision tonight, which just for a bit of a laugh and just a bit of music, bit of fun. So I decided to have my tipples on a Saturday, and it gave me a chance to finish off the gaming that I will talk about in this very vlog. Toward the end of the vlog, I will, of course, as I am now doing, put the timestamps in for you people. So if you're here for a particular part, a particular piece that I've put in the description or the title, you'll be able to go straight to that part and enjoy it for that little piece, and then stop me blabbing on if that's really what you want to do. Or, of course, if you would like to stay for the entire thing, people, then leave your mouse, leave your phone, touchscreens alone. Go and grab yourself one of these and we'll get to it, people. So I think, very briefly, I've had a really good week, good work week, got loads done, kept me running, had 3 good runs this week, 8.5 Ks. I've been talking in the vlogs that I've been doing this 1,200 calories or less diet through the week, and that's been going really well as well. And the only downside to that is that the runs are becoming harder work, because initially you get quite a boost with the runs. When you start dropping weight, you start getting faster, but then there's an incline in your speed because you're not putting enough fuel in your body to push the speed out that you would want to do as a faster run. So I'll live with that. The speeds are coming down, not much, just seconds more than anything. And so my times are coming down a little bit just because I'm not putting more fuel in my body to do fast runs. I'd rather I can still do the distance, it's just a slower pace, and the calorie difference of burn is like 3 or 4 calories. It doesn't make any difference, just as long as it's a decent pace and I get back, I'm happy with that. So 3 good runs this week, so it's been a good week, and I've been cracking on with my gaming off camera and really enjoying. I've finished 2 games. I will talk about those at the end, although you'll know what they are now by the description most likely, and I did talk about one of them last week because I was on with it. But I think for the title and for what people are here for, we'll talk about that first. And I'm going to have a sip of this before we get going, people. Oh, that's very nice indeed. That is very nice indeed. So we shall do a similar thing that I did last week. Last week's was a little bit late. It was the games out in May was part of the vlog for last week. And it was a bit late, to be honest. I should have done it a bit earlier, but it was a bright idea I had after the event, really. But I think a few of you found it useful. So I thought we would do a games out in June. There isn't as many big hitters out in June. Going to put the old man glasses on for this bit, people. So let's have a look. Tip the hat to Game Informer for the list that we have. Just to recap what we still have to come in May. The big one for me is Biomutant. It's out on the 25th. Where are we at the minute? 22nd, 23rd, 21st. So it's Tuesday. I still haven't pre-ordered it. I might still, though. I could always buy it digitally, I suppose. But anyway, I'm still very, very tempted with it. The only reason that I'm not gone for it, I'll explain as I talk about the gaming I've been doing toward the end of the vlog. So we've got Biomutant still to happen this month on the 25th. I'll quickly rattle off the ones that are left for May. Final Fantasy 14... for PlayStation 5, yeah, it's the online one, isn't it? So the online one for PlayStation 5 is out on the 25th, same day, for anyone that's interested in that. King of Seas, which is out on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, is also on May 25th. You've got Man-Eater on the Switch, May 25th. You've got Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne HD Remaster. That's a short title. PlayStation 4 and Switch on May 25th as well. Big day, that. Earth Defense Force World Brothers, PlayStation 4, Switch and PC on May the 27th. Oddworld Collection on the Switch on May 27th. The Idolmaster Starlit Season, not sure what that is, PlayStation 4 and PC, May 27th. Also on May 27th, The Longest Road on Earth for PC. I keep saying I'll skip the PC ones, but anyway. PlayStation 4, Switch and PC for Wonder Boy Asher in Monster World May 28th and World's End Club on May 28th on Switch. Alright, so June. Here we have June. We've got Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection, PlayStation 4, Xbox One and PC on June the 1st. Operation Tango. I don't know much about a lot of these games, to be honest. Operation Tango, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series XS, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, all platforms. June 1st, The Elder Scrolls Online, Gates of Oblivion on Stadia and PC. Not interested in that. Well, I'm not anyway. June 1st. World of Warcraft thing for PC on June 1st. Wreckfest on PlayStation 5 only. Wonder what that is. Might have a little look and see what that is. Is it a little indie thing? Anyway, Wreckfest for PlayStation 5 only on June the 1st. Maybe it's already on PlayStation 4. Maybe that's why it just says PlayStation 5. Mind you, it says read review next to it, so it might be a new game, Wreckfest. That's Wreck with a W. And Pro Cycling Manager on June the 3rd. That's PC. Tour de France 2021, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, all platforms basically. June the 3rd for Tour de France 21. Evergate on PlayStation 5 on the June the 4th. Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts 2 on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One and PC June the 4th. The Last Kids on Earth and the Staff of Doom. PlayStation 4, Xbox One is on June the 4th. The Persistence on PlayStation 5 and Xbox X and S. That's just on the new ones on June the 4th. The Persistence. Chivalry 2, all platforms, June the 8th. Edge of Eternity on PC, June the 8th. The Elder Scrolls Online, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X. Right, so that's so it's already on all the other platforms, isn't it? So they must have done an X and S and a PlayStation 5 version for that. So the Elder Scrolls Online is June the 8th. The Elder Scrolls Online Gates of Oblivion, which must be the add-on for it, is also June the 8th. No, it's not. Hang on. Scratch that. I don't know whether they're coming to the new consoles, but the Gates of Oblivion are for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One on June the 8th. Whether that's actually hitting PlayStation 5's version, I've no idea, or Xbox Series X's version. So Gates of Oblivion on the old consoles, June the 8th. Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, which is a big thing people are waiting for. That's the big plug-in to Final Fantasy VII Remake on the PlayStation 4. Well, that game is on the PlayStation 4. But the Remake Integrated on PlayStation 5 on June the 10th. That's interesting. It only says PlayStation 5. Does that mean Integrated is only for PlayStation 5 then? Or is it... Yeah, I didn't know the answer to that, actually. You think I would have done some research, people, wouldn't you, really, if I'm doing a... Never ye mind, eh? We'll work through the list. Anyway, Remake in Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrated on June the 10th. Ninja Gaiden Master Collection on PlayStation 4, Xbox One and Switch and PC June the 10th. Game Builder Garage on Switch June 11th. Guilty Gear Strive PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4 and PC on June the 11th. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, which is the big one for the month effectively. That's the biggest of all of these, I would say. It's a PlayStation 5 exclusive. It's only on the PlayStation 5. Ratchet and Clank A Rift Apart is on June the 11th. It's really close, people. Dark Alliance is on PlayStation, well, all platforms on June the 22nd. Ender Lilies, Quietus of the Nights on Switch and PC June 22nd. Alex Kidd in Miracle World DX, all platforms June 24th. Legend of Mana on PlayStation 4, Switch and PC on June 24th. Rogue Books, a PC thing, on June 24th. Mario Golf Super Rush. So I remember seeing the clip for that, actually. It looked really good fun, that. Mario Golf Super Rush on the Switch, June 25th. Takes the golf game and just makes it more exciting, like they do with Nintendo stuff. It looks really cool. The kids will have a good time with that one. June 25th. Scarlet Nexus, placed all platforms, June 25th. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 on Switch, June 25th. Curved Space on all platforms, June 29th. Destroy All Humans on Switch, June 29th. And Disgaea 6 Defiance of Destiny, Switch on June 29th. Awesome. So there's a lot coming out. Whether or not any of that is for you, that is up to you to decide, people. But the big one of that lot is Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. And I'll tell you this, and I will tell you no more. And I've bleated on about it already because it winds me up no end that the PlayStation first party titles are £70, people. it's going to take an awful lot for me to spend 70 quid on day one. And I'll tell you, the only game that comes to mind that I will spend £70 on day one for would be The Last of Us Part 3. So I don't think I'm going to be buying any PlayStation 5 exclusive games on day one. Because, well, firstly, not that I'm doing any Let's Plays at the minute, but when I do get back to them, the only games that I'm really going to Let's Play on the channel are the RPG stuff, because that's the stuff that you guys like watching me do. That's the community we've built. Every now and then I'll dabble a little bit in just other things just to let you see how they perform, and we do get a bit of interest on that. But in general terms, it'll be really be RPG stuff, because those big hitters, there's far too many big YouTube channels that do those playthroughs anyway that people would rather watch than me do them. And, you know, the RPG stuff, I just feel like that's what the channel has built into. That's what you guys want to see. So an awful lot of these games, there's no point in me buying them day one just for the sake of getting them on the channel quick so that you guys, you know, can see them on my channel as soon as you can, and to get decent views, because not a lot of people have done it yet. But I mean, it's very rare that that happens anymore, because so many free copies are dished out to the big hitters on YouTube that none of us small people have a chance in hell of having high views on anything anymore. The only time that I ever get something like that is if all of the big people ignore it because no one's bothered giving them a, you know, like something on preview like Subnautica or something like Arcania every now and then comes along, which was massive amount of views I got for that, because nobody in the world had put any footage up of it on PS4. It was one of the first things I was, in fact, that's where the channel stemmed from, really, I think, because that was the first thing I put up, and it just got thousands. And there wasn't even any commentary on the first number of episodes. So anyway, I won't be paying 70 quid on day one for games. Like, it's obscene. And as a point of principle, I won't pay £70 for a game. And I don't care what anybody says, they are not 70. They shouldn't be £70. Like, and developers will argue through the teeth, and they'll say you should be buying games day one, and that's how you fund the games. Look at the profit margin they make on these games. Look at the money that PlayStation and Microsoft make on these games. Don't you sit there and cry and eat your cup of soup that you're not making enough money on games. You were making massive amounts of money when games were 40 quid. So don't be telling me that you need to make 70 quid to make better games, because it's an absolute nonsense, in my opinion. And I understand that costs of things go up, but you're driving up the cost of a game in order to keep your profit, your stupidly high profit margins, especially with AAA titles, people, your stupidly high profit margins on those games at the highest they can be, because you're a business and that's what you want to do. So don't be turning around and telling fans that it's our fault if we don't get a follow-up to a game because we didn't buy it on day one, if you're going to charge us £70 for it, because it's obscene amounts of money, people. Like, your normal person, your normal gamer, or they've not got 70 quid to spend every time a new game comes out. It's just ridiculous. And this is why the Xbox is going to do super well this gen, because the Games Pass, Xbox Games Pass Ultimate, has got every single first party title will be on there day one. You don't have to pay for them. You pay your $10.99 a month in this country, £10.99, whatever it is in the States, $15 or whatever it is, $14.99. You pay that, and whenever there's a big game comes out, you'll play it on there. And don't be shouting at the screen that Xbox don't have any big titles, because they do now. And they'll be coming fast and hard in the next 2 years. So they're going to be getting massive titles, and they're going to be free on Games Pass, and there won't be 70 quid, but everything I'm seeing on Xbox looks like it's still going to be 50, £55. I mean, why is it that third-party studios are still pushing all of the games out at £50 to £55? And yet Sony have decided it's got to be £70 a game. It's an absolute point of principle. I'm not going to be spending it. So I don't care what the game is. The only one I might make an exception for would be The Last of Us Part 3, if that actually happens. But that's not going to happen until the end of this lifetime of machines, but going by what's happened with the other Last of Us games. So, it's going to be a long time coming before I spend 70 quid on a title. The only time I've done it, and I know some of you probably shouted at the screen already that I've already paid it. I did pay it. I paid it because I wanted the Demon Souls on day one, but that's because I wanted to show it off to you guys and have the launch of the PlayStation with a PlayStation 5 game on it. It seemed pointless not to do it. And that's fine. I was spending the money on the big console anyway. I thought I needed a launch day title with it. And that's what I did. But I'm not, like, it would need to be something rather incredible for me to be buying it at £70 on day one. That's an obscene amount of cash. It really, really is. And I still don't understand to this day how we went from £40 to... We went from £40 to about 50. Well, it was £39.99 in this country to about £55 in the space of I think it was in the space of 2 years. But we'd had games at £40 for about 15 years. It's like, well, how did that happen? How did they go up by that amount of money all of a sudden? So I think I will accept that costs go up. And I will accept that we can't have games at £40 forever, even though I believe that if they still sold them at £40, they'd be making... In my opinion, they would sell far more copies of their game if they still sold them at £40 on day one at launch. You would still have far more people buying your game at launch at 40 quid. And for me, the revenue surely has to be greater if you get more people buying at £40 than if you do get in half the amount of people buying it at £70 and then spending 15 to 20 quid on it when it goes way down in price. So I don't understand the economics of it. I don't understand how they're working out that they make more money if they sell them at 70 quid on day one. Like, that can't be right. Like, they must make more money, surely, if they sell them day one at 40 to 50 pound, and more people will be in a position to buy them. But anyway, as it turns out, Microsoft have done the absolute right thing. If the third-party studios are still selling those games at 50 quid or £55, whatever they are, people will kind of accept that. I feel they have already. And then you've got Games Pass, which is littered with a lot of third-party games. There have been some third-party games hit on day one, but there won't be a huge amount of them on day one. But they will inevitably end up on Games Pass, so you can just wait and play them there at some point. And all of the first-party games from Microsoft, of which there is going to be an abundance of them now that they've bought Bethesda and they've got all these studios that they've purchased and the new studios that they've set up. There's going to be so many massive hitters coming to that, of which, and we might as well roll this segment straight into the next one, which is the rumours on Starfield, but first and foremost, the fact that Microsoft and Bethesda are, now that they're, Microsoft own Bethesda now. If you didn't know that, you've been living in a cave or under the ground. But they're doing a joint ice cream van. You'll probably get that on the microphone. Hey, you don't get that in the big channels, people. You don't get an ice cream van. So they're doing a joint, well, you can call it a conference, but obviously E3 is online this year. We didn't get an E3 last year. They decided they were going to do an online one this year. E3 is in June, I'm pretty sure. And that's when Microsoft and Bethesda have said they are going to do a presentation together as one thing. Whether that's part of E3 or not, I don't think that's quite been decided. But they are involved in E3, so you would suspect that it is part of E3. And it's going to be super exciting to see what they're ready to talk about straight off the bat, because for me, it's got to be all about Starfield. Because if you look at how things work, because it's Todd Howard's particular studio that has done Fallout and the Elder Scrolls, isn't it? And because we had Fallout 4, and mind you saying that, I'm not sure that Fallout 76 was Todd Howard's studio, so they could have been, certainly they've been rattling on with Starfield, which means you can't imagine that there's anything to do with Elder Scrolls 6 that early for showing off. We could be wrong, maybe there is, but there might be, because I remember the last time we saw Todd Howard on stage, he hinted at he announced Starfield and they had a very short clip, which is the only clip we've ever had, just a big planet with a shiny ring round it, madam. Thank you. And he also put up, there was also an Elder Scrolls 6 thing saying Elder Scrolls 6 was coming. So that was years ago now. It was a good few years back. So they must have been on with something to do with it. So the only two things that I can imagine that they might tease on the massive scale, and make no bones about it, people, Elder Scrolls 6 and Starfield will not be on a PlayStation. Right? They'll be on Games Pass. they'll be on the Xbox, and they'll be on PC. They will be nowhere near a PlayStation. If you haven't got that through your head, you need to get it through your head now. And a lot of the rumours about Starfield have been confirming that as we've come up to this run. But we already know that because Phil Spencer's already said it pretty much in the roundtable that they did. Yet everybody still said there's still question marks. It was like, no, Phil Spencer was pretty bloody clear that he bought that company so that he could have exclusive games for his business. And the only time that he's going to put anything anywhere else is if it already exists there, or if they had a contractual obligation, such as Deathloop, then he'll see that through. Everything else is going to be an exclusive. He said it. Why people are still discussing it, I've got no idea. These games will only be on the Xbox universe. So, well, we include PC because of Games Pass and everything. So you've got to fancy that at E3 they're going to be teasing something huge. If Bethesda are included, and then bear in mind they've also got the Indiana Jones game, but that must be really early in development because they only just got the rights to that we know of anyway. And we just saw a very, very brief trailer hinting at the film, hinting at the game. We didn't really see any gameplay. We didn't see, it was just saying we've got this and we're going to be making it. And that was the people that do Wolfenstein, whichever way you want to say it. They're going to be making that one. But I really, really fancy that Bethesda are going to be punting they're certainly, I think, going to be punting Starfield or Elder Scrolls 6. They might even, I think Elder Scrolls 6 will be after Starfield. I think that was kind of clear. When they mentioned that Elder Scrolls 6 was going to happen, I'm pretty sure it hadn't even started development yet. They just had approved the fact it was going to be made. But I got the distinct impression at that point that would happen after Starfield. So I think without any shadow of a doubt, we're going to be seeing something of Starfield at E3. And I think it would be the ideal time to do it because I think the hype is there already for the fact that Microsoft have bought them. I think the Xbox community is ready to get some hype about one of these big titles that Microsoft have paid these billions of dollars for. And Starfield is, the rumours of when it's coming out, it seems to be that it's actually not as ready as people seem to think it is. I still have a feeling that maybe it will be holiday this year, but there's an awful lot of speculation saying it's going to be 2022. That's fine. Take your time, The downside for me is the only thing that's now worrying me is that I'm pretty sure I distinctly remember something that Todd Howard said on the stage that it was a new gen game specifically for new gen consoles. Yet an awful lot of the stuff that's come out this week seems to suggest that it is going to be on all platforms of the Xbox environment. So it's going to be an Xbox One. And that kind of disappoints me because I was really hoping for a new gen experience from Starfield. I felt like I'm sure, I would have to go back and try and find some footage. I'm sure Todd Howard said something about the fact that they were waiting for the technology to be right so that they could make something like Starfield because it was so vast, I think, so big or whatever they wanted to do with it. So I really, really hope that is actually a false rumour because the last thing you need is a cyberpunk situation where the old consoles just cannot cope with it properly and it plays awful. But we'll see. I don't want to start criticising people, and games and stuff without having seen anything and what have you. But with these massive titles, I feel like we're getting to a point, and I know a lot of people don't even have new consoles yet, so I think that might be a cause for why they might try and make things work on old gen consoles because PlayStation are already saying it's going to be at least another year without people being, struggling to get hold of a PlayStation 5. Series X's are still really difficult to get hold of. You can get Series S's pretty much, but Series X's are still tough to come by. And, maybe it's one of those things where they feel like we can't have this game launch and not be able to provide people with consoles to play it on because we're, sort of suffocating ourselves a little bit, strangling our income because those people can't play it, and it's not their fault. It's just they can't physically buy the platform we want to put it on. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what comes of that. I hope it doesn't hold back if it is true, I hope it doesn't hold back the quality of game that we're getting from that. I was super stoked for it because I got the impression from when he spoke about it that it was specifically for new generation consoles. At that point, of course, we didn't know they were going to be Microsoft at that point. So therefore, it would be Series X and Series S. But we'll see. Either way, it's still going to be a great game, you know. It's not like I don't like playing Fallout 4. You know, Fallout 4 is a great game, and I'll play it on, you know, the X, even though it's an Xbox One game or a PS4 game. So, you know, they'll still make great games. It's just at some point, we want to see these machines do all that they can do. And the only way you can do that is by making games that are just for these new gen consoles. We know this. We know this to be true, people. History tells us such things. So there you are. Was there any other rumours I forgot about there? Hang on a second. I'll check my notes, people. Oh, there was. Yes, there was another one. The other rumour was, and here's one for you. There was rumours that Tom Cruise is voicing in Starfield. Now, I don't know how true this is, and I actually, now that I'm saying it, I've actually forgotten where that rumour came from. I saw it on the Daily Fix from IGN, tip hat to them. But I think they saw it somewhere else. But, I mean, it's not impossible. And there's an awful lot of big actors that really like getting involved with video games, especially when they're big, you know, on, say, space or certain things. I mean, the very fact, I mean, I know Liam Neeson was kind of a brilliant catch at the time. He was on that up to being a megastar, because he was quite late on in his career when his career really kind of hit hard in America. And to get him at the time they got him was an absolute boon for Fallout 3. And it was brilliant having him in it. But I just feel like Tom Cruise, like the biggest movie star on the planet, I mean, how much money would you need to pay him to say words? I mean, he probably doesn't get out of bed for a movie for less than $10 million, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I know there's a lot of money in gaming, but is there $10 million for Tom Cruise in making a game? I mean, that's probably the entire budget of the game, isn't it? That's probably way off, Steve. It shows you how much I know about game development. But I mean, I'd be stoked if he was, you know, if his voice is in it somewhere, it'd be fantastic. But I don't see where that would come from. That said, when Tom Cruise did The Last Samurai, some of you may or may not know this, but here's some facts for you that you may not know, or a fact. When The Last Samurai, the guy who made The Last Samurai, I think it was the director, whoever was producing the film, but I'm pretty sure the director knew that he wanted Tom Cruise for that part. And they couldn't pay him Tom Cruise fee. So I believe, I mean, I don't have this as gospel, but I believe that what Tom Cruise did was he said, well, I'll do it for this amount of money and I'll take a cut of the film instead. And to this day, I still think it's one of his best films he ever did. So there could be something like that. It could be that he says, right, I'll be involved, but I'll take a nominal fee, and then you can give me a slice of the game, and I'll be happy with that. Because for all the work, I mean, it depends how much work you want him to do. Like, Liam Neeson wouldn't have done any cutscene stuff for Fallout 3. There wasn't anything like that in Fallout 3. So they basically just had him say the lines into a recording device, you know, as many times as they needed to get it right, and then they just put that to the images they put on screen. So if it's a Bethesda game like that where there isn't any cutscenes, and you know, then and you don't need to be doing all of the in-studio animation stuff with the actors acting it out and you capturing it, and you know, if he doesn't have to do any of that and it's literally voicing a character, then you know, it's money for old rope to him, I suppose, and he gets to be involved in a, you know, present himself in another form instead of just movies. It'd be interesting. That'd be super cool if he does end up in it. And yeah. So anyway, that was one that flew out of all the rumours. We also have I need to come back to The Last of Us because I've forgotten. It was supposed to be mentioned before all of this, in fact. But while we're on with the Microsoft stuff, it's also the 20th anniversary. It's coming up for the 20th anniversary, so I'm not actually sure what it is, of the launch of the original Xbox. It's effectively the 20th anniversary of Xbox. And, you know, you've got to fancy that they're going to be doing something for that. You know, I saw quite a cool idea from Gary Whitta when I was watching the Xcast from Kind of Funny, and he was saying that it'd be super cool if they were able to do an Xbox Series X, but in the shape of the original Xbox, like the very, very first one that came out. I mean, that would actually be very cool. And it was a bit of a beast in itself, that first Xbox. So, you know, I mean, it wasn't as big as the Series X, but you could do something that was near as damn it a similar type thing. But something like that would be super cool. The problem is, of course, that they're struggling to make normal X's fast enough to get them out. I mean, you know, though, if you do a special limited edition, something like that, it'll sell out in no time at all. But it'd be interesting to see. I've no doubt they will absolutely surely do a controller for the 20th anniversary. A bit like PlayStation did, didn't they? They did a controller that was in the colours of the original PS1. Why do I want to say they did actually do a PS1 as well? I can't remember. But they did a DualShock 4 that was... No, they did a DualShock... They did a PlayStation 4 as well that matched the controller. They did a whole unit, didn't they? It was the same shape as a PlayStation 4, but it was in the colours of the PlayStation 1. It was really cool. And they were really hard to get hold of. So you've got to fancy they'll do something. You've got to fancy they will. So I'm quite excited to see what they do with that. And I super stoked. I know Phil Spencer never holds back wherever. I mean, we know COVID's holding things back to a degree still. Things are starting to get better, but I feel like there has to be some really cool stuff coming out of this 20th anniversary of Xbox. So yeah, very, very, very exciting time. Is it just me or am I going bright red? It's warm in here, people. And I apologise for the lighting if it's a bit... There is literally nowhere in this house. I've got so many places I can do these little cool backdrops with all my little bits and bobs, and you know. But there is nowhere where I can block the light and have light just coming at me. So I've got, as best I can, all the lights on in here. I've got the back door kind of open, but the blinds open, so all the sun's beaming through there. But I can't get rid of the sun coming through those blinds. So it's just kind of this... Anyway, you know, maybe it's softer on my complexion. We all need that, people, at my bloody age. Level 50, people. Yes, rewinding slightly to The Last of Us Part 2. Well, The Last of Us Part 2. It got a patch this week, and the patch effectively lets you play the game on the PlayStation 5 at 60 frames per second, people. 60 FPS. Which is fantastic. I was watching. I haven't actually tried it at 60 FPS yet. I did when I got the PlayStation 5. I put the game in and tried the beginning section of it simply to see how quiet it played, because it was the noisiest thing on the planet playing that game on a PlayStation 4. And the PlayStation 5 couldn't even hear it. Deathly quiet playing that game. So we know that was the proof that PlayStation 5 wasn't going to make noise when playing games. And it is so nice. Both the Series X and the PlayStation 5 are just deathly quiet. But to be fair... The Xbox One and the Xbox One X that I had in the end, the Xbox One X, they were both, all of their consoles were deathly quiet. It was only the PlayStation 4 that was bloody annoying, noisy. Like the fans just going constantly. So the other, I mean, I played the opening section, but then at that point I said, I'm not going to play this game again just now because there will be a patch for it at some point, and I want to experience this game at 60 FPS. And sure enough, here it's come. Now, one of you fine people did say, oh, you've got to stream a bit of that, record a bit of that. But to be honest, again, it's not the sort of thing that does well on the channel. It's always the RPG type stuff that does well. And I'm always reluctant to show off stuff like that. And anyway, at the moment, I'm not doing any Let's Play stuff because I'm taking a break from it. Mental health stuff, just... You know, sometimes you've got to step... I've talked about this before, so I'm not going to bleat on about it. But sometimes you've got to step back. Your mental well-being is more important than anything else. I'm loving still doing these vlogs for you, so I'm keeping those going, obviously. And I will get back to doing some Let's Play stuff for you. It might not be full Let's Plays. It might just be, oh, there's a game I wouldn't mind doing a part 1 and 2 of, at least to show people off. You know, Biomutant would be a prime example, which is still to come on Tuesday. But again, there's so much footage of it out already that it's like, even if I do it, it's not like it's going to make any great waves across the world of YouTube. But, however... I still want to make content that you guys are going to enjoy. But by far, the ones that have been the most popular of recent times have probably been the Bethesda ones. You know, Fallout 4, Skyrim on the play. You know, when the 60 FPSs came along, people were loving watching a bit more of that. Dark Souls 3, funnily enough, was at 60 FPS on the PlayStation 5, was super popular in comparison to Demon's Souls, which was a brand new game. I've got barely any views for Demon's Souls, but Dark Souls 3 playing at 60 FPS, views were through the roof for my little world anyway. So I've still got that save, and that's something I might go back to. But anyway, so the Last of Us Part 2 got this, you know, and I will absolutely jump back into that game at some point and play it in 60 FPS, because 60 FPS for me is just everything at the moment. Like, I'm not that bothered about 120 FPS, because to be quite honest, the when I've seen stuff, there's only, I heard that the human eye can only, I don't think it can go beyond a certain point, and I don't know that it can actually go to 120 FPS. It can go over 60 by a little bit, but there is a point where the human eye can't actually see any difference. And 60 FPS is just so smooth, like, you know, and it's great that the Xbox Series X can do 120 frames per second in certain, you know, limited game areas and stuff, or older games. Some of them can do it, and that's fantastic. If you've got 120 hertz TV, you can enjoy that. I don't think my TV does 120 hertz though. It's a great TV. It's fantastic, but I don't think it stems to that. Along with, there's only the newer TVs that can do both 4K and HDR at the same time. My TV can do one or the other. Like, so I always go 4K. So, you know, but I mean, 60 FPS on its own for me makes everything look crystal clear anyway, even at 1080p. You know what I mean? People moan that a game's only at 1080p, but it's so smooth and clear and beautiful at 1080p anyway. If you get anything above that, then fantastic. But, you know, anyway, the from what I saw on Digital Foundry, if you can go and look at that video that they did showing off the patch for 60 FPS, it looks gorgeous. There's not been, as far as I remember, there was no graphical deficit. Like, they didn't have to remove anything to add the 60 FPS. They just added the 60 FPS. They uncapped it and let it run. And it's perfect, apart from one tiny place where the guy said, this is the only spot in the whole game. And it was the same on 30 FPS as well. This is the only spot in the game where it seems to have a problem. And it's only if you're standing in this spot, of which you're only there for 2 minutes. But the whole game was just smooth, buttery smooth all the way through. So that's fantastic. And here's another thing. There was an update on the, and here's, it winds me up still, that when you get an update for the DualSense, the PlayStation 5 controller, you've got to plug it in to the console via a USB to update it. Because you can't carry on without it. So you've got to update so you've got to plug it in. Whereas with the Xbox, it just does it wirelessly. Like, I don't know why we've got to plug them in. Like, why do we got to plug them in to get an update? Like, you can communicate with the device via Bluetooth. Anyway, it's not the end of the world. It only happens every now and then. But but I've got two controllers, so I need to plug one in, do that one, unplug that one, plug the next one in, let it do that one. It's just a little bit of a faff that you don't need. Anyway. There was an update in April for those controllers. I didn't know what it was at the time, and, you know, frankly, I think, well, that's fine. They're probably just updating it, making it happier, and, you know. But it turns out they actually constantly doing, you know, taking feedback about how they're performing and, you know, sensitivities and all this sort of thing. And apparently there was a whole bunch of updates to the haptic feedbacks and the rumbles and all this sort of stuff. And apparently the patch for The Last of Us 2, which has got the 60 FPS stuff in, that also makes better use of those updates. So those updates have a direct impact on that game and that patch, where things are more sensitive and nicer and feel better and all that sort of stuff. That was really cool as well to hear today. So I will get to it at some point. I'll absolutely play that game again. It is, unlike the first game, which is still probably one of my favourite games of all time, I couldn't stop playing that game. With this one, I've played it once, apart from that opening section, just to see how it performed on the PlayStation 5, because it's just not, like, it's depressing. There's only one way to say it, people. It's depressing as fuck. And I don't want to spend a lot of time in a game that's depressing, he says, about to talk about the games that he's been playing. But I don't find these ones depressing. They're just scary. But the story arc and everything to do with The Last of Us 2 was just so depressing that it doesn't want, nothing in me wants to go and play that game again. There are bits of me that wants to go and do the action bits again, but in order to do those action bits again, you need to go through the whole depressing story. I can only hope that maybe my mind changes on it a bit when The Last of Us 3 comes out, which inevitably will, because it just makes so much money. They obviously don't want to get hated on the way that they were for the second one. again, and they make it a bit more upbeat and a bit more, But, there's things in that game that can't be undone, but still. Anyway, I will get to it. But it was nice to see the patch come through. I think that's all of the big hitters now. Sony have patched to have the 60 FPS. Days Gone has been done. That's been done. Ghost of Tsushima's been done. I think Ratchet and Clank already did 60 FPS. If it didn't, then it certainly, I think it does now. So, they've done a really good job of getting 60 FPS onto their first-party titles. So let's move on, shall we? I've been blabbing on for ages, and I thought I was going to be I thought this was going to be a short one, and I've ended up rambling on so much that we're on to 40 odd minutes already, people. So here we go. So there you are. That was the games out this month, and the little bits of gossipy news that I've been I've had my ear to the ground and been spotting. I'm sure there's lots more than that going on, but those are the little bits that interested me. And so this week, last week I talked to you about the fact that I'd been playing Resident Evil Village. I'm the only zombie in the village. I'm going to say it every time I say the game on these vlogs. And I was loving it. And I finished it midweek. I think it was Wednesday. It was Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday, actually. Finished it on Tuesday. I loved it. Oh, I loved that game. And I tell you this, I'm going to give it a score, and I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. That's how good it was. And I would have given it a 9.5. But I tell you though, I'm sitting thinking about it now. I'm trying to think of something, apart from the one thing I'm about to mention, which would have, taken it to a 10, say. I'm trying to think of something that I didn't like, apart from this one section. But it's not anything wrong with the section. It's just that it's a section I just in games don't like very much. But the game, it was just superb, right? The story was great. The guy who's the main character has been getting a bit of a hard time from other people that have been talking about it and stuff. For me, I think he's a great character. I think he's so, he's just so honest about his reaction to everything. Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why is this happening to me again? Like, what? And, just constantly... And to be honest, a lot of that stuff that he's saying and a lot of the weirdness that you might think is like, surely you wouldn't react like that. It all kind of makes sense when you get to the end of the game, because when you realise what that's about and what he's about, then maybe you think, oh, well, maybe then, you know what I mean? But, if I compare this to 7, which I was like, well, it was okay, but it didn't feel like a Resi game, and it were, to me, in most of the case... Well, in pretty much all the way through that game, I didn't feel like I was in a Resi game. Whereas this game, I felt the opposite. Even though it was first person, I just felt like this is a Resident Evil game and I'm loving it. And even though you had different kinds of enemies, like it wasn't just zombies walking about and then, the big guy following you around, or there is somebody that does follow you around in one section. But what they did was really clever was I'm repeating some of them from what I said last time, they had a bit of every game in different areas, like every type of game, if you like. So there was a little bit of a section that was a bit like Resi 7, but it was just that part. And because it was just that part was really cool. And then you went back to a more actiony part. That part, they actually took your guns away completely, and you had to do all this, and it was really spooky. And then you had the castle, and you had the bit I didn't like. I'm going to try and stay spoiler free here. The bit I didn't like was a sort of industrial type section at the end. And the only reason I didn't like it. I didn't not like it. I find that kind of environment not very interesting, and also it didn't fit well with the rest of the village, the castle. Everything else felt old and soaked in history, and then there was just this weird, factory shoved on the side. You know what I mean? I get why it was there. I get what it was doing, but I just felt like I just don't like industrial areas. And it was the same when as I'm about to talk about, I decided that finally I was going to play Resident Evil 2 all the way through. Anyone following the channel knows I did a little bit of a Let's Play on it. It wasn't particularly popular, so I kind of ended up fading away from it. I got quite far into it and then stopped. So after I played, I'll come back to Resident Evil Village in a little minute. So after I finished it, Well, okay, hang on, let's round that up. So I got to the end of the game and I was just like, that was just superb. And I was sitting thinking, is that the best one I've actually ever played? And there's a lot of sort of rose tinted glasses stuff going on when you look at like, nah, Resi 1's always going to be the best, or Resi 2's always... But when I actually went and played Resi 2 again, I just realised so much that Resident Evil Village is quite possibly, in fact, I think I'm going to say it, people, Resident Evil Village is the best Resident Evil game that's been made. Because they got so much right in that game. And it was just fantastic. I mean, I'm actually buzzing about playing it again at some point. I might try and, I don't know, the plot on it's not that bad, to be fair. I mean, there are some bits you'd have to plan out, but because you're going to get certain things in certain places and what have you. But I'm buzzing to play that game again, and I will absolutely... Aaron Brew bought me the Steelbook, Aaron Brew, my son, he bought me the Steelbook edition for the PlayStation 5, and I will absolutely play that game again on the Xbox Series X at some point. When I see it cheap enough, I'll go, right, I'm buying that again and I'm going to play it again just to get the G's on the PlayStation, on the Xbox Series X. And then, interestingly, well, I've played the Resi 2, that was on the Series X, so when I jumped over to that and thought, right, let's start from the beginning, I'm going to play this all the way through. And I did. I went straight into it from Village. And as I say, as I was playing it, I realised quite quickly that Resi Village is by far the best one that I've played. It just gets so much right. It's so much fun. The first person part didn't even... when I started playing it, I was kind of like, why did they not go back to, But now that I've played it, and now that I've gone back to the third person one in Resi 2, I missed it. I mean, I was like, I can't wait for Resi 9. You know what I mean? To be like this. And anyone who's played it, I'm not going to say anything spoilery, but anyone who plays it knows where that's going to continue on to now. If you've seen the end of that game, you know what's going to be the continuation of that story. Well, not story as such, but that avenue, that route, and that world, and how things are going to progress. So it was so good. And I'm really surprised that there were so many 8 out of 10s for that game, because it really blew my socks off. It really did. And it was gorgeous. It was stunning. The action was fluid. The weapons were great. The village was great for trying to discover stuff. The maps were fantastically done, so that you had to, it was like a maze trying to get to everywhere that you needed to get to pick up all the hidden bits and the components and it was so good. I can't begin to tell you how good that game was. I mean, it's my game of the year, without any shadow of a doubt at the moment. And we'll see what happens with the rest of the year. But, so good. So good. If you played Resi 7 and didn't fancy it much and thought, that's not for me, you should play Resi 8. You kind of get the gist of what went on in the last one. You don't need to have, they do a little bit of a recap-ish as they go through bits of it. So you don't need to have played 7 to get what's going on. And I think there's a recap. I'm pretty sure at the beginning of the game it said, do you want a recap of 7? So you can just do that. I did finish 7, but I only played and finished it when Aaron Brew came to stay, and we played it together and we took turns. And I enjoyed it to a point at that point, because I was playing it with him and we took turns doing it. But I did not... And this game's in a whole other stratosphere to 7. Like, 7 was a completely different type of game. It was far too Outlast. It was far too hiding and far too, Resi 8, trust me, you'll love it. If you like a bit of action and a bit of Resi world, you're gonna love it. Superb, absolutely superb. And then Resi 2, the first night I played it, I thought, because I started from the beginning again as Claire, and I played that whole evening, and I remember texting Aaron and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to see this through. Like, I'm not feeling it. I'm missing Resi 8. But I think what it was because I've done the opening section of Resi 2 about 5 times now, and I've never finished the game. So I've done that opening part of the police station so many times. I think that what was scunnering me a bit. So what I've yeah, once the second night I played it, I got really into it. I mean, I still had loads of the PlayStation 2. I just got really into it. And then once the flow got going, I was like, yeah, I'm back in now. It's not that I dislike Resi 2. It's just I think that I'd tried it so many times and I hadn't finished it. But when I got to the newer parts, I was like, oh, here we go. Right, now I've got to, And the more I've played Resi, now it's been on the bounce 2 games, the more you're clever about your inventory. You're clever about when to shoot, when not to shoot. You're clever at, there's all sorts of things you can do that... It still winds me up a bit that Resi 2 didn't just let you have a knife. Like... Every Resi game gives you the knife. You've got the knife. It's your backup tool if you get stuck, and that's that. But to give us knives that broke after 3 uses or whatever, it's a bit like, nah. Just give me a knife. The resurrecting zombies, I kind of understand why they're there to keep you on your toes, but it still wound me up because it was like, the whole point of the whole zombie thing is you shoot them in the head, they go down. It's a zombie, but. It was like, they did it because it was like, we can only have so many zombies in the station. So once you've shot them, it's going to be boring. It's like, well, not really, because you still got to work out the puzzle of the station. So it still wound me up a bit playing at this time. And there was still, all the way through that game, there was enemies that you shot down but would get back up. And they wouldn't stop getting back up. There was enemies later on that just wouldn't stop getting up. It didn't matter how many times you hit them. I think the only time I made those ones stay down was... Oh, is this true? No, it's not. I remember I burnt them. I torched them with the explosive launcher that Claire gets, and they still got back up, these things. Whereas the zombies do eventually stay down. Anyway, I thought it was fantastic. Resi 2 was great, but it wasn't in the same realm as Resi 8 for me. But it was the Resi 2 remake. I did really enjoy it in the end. Aaron keeps telling me that I've not actually finished it until I do the story 2 with Leon, which is a little bit of a cop-out because you've got to do the whole bloody station again. The one thing I never want to see again in my whole life I've got to do again is that bloody police station. It is a shorter run-through, though, I believe, and I did start it the other night, last night, in fact, and I was kind of playing it and I thought, I'm not sure I'm going to see this through. I'll give it another night. I'll see how far I get with him. It does seem to let you speed through it a bit. The bit that's going to piss me off is when Mr. X starts pitching up, because he's bound to bloody pitch up, isn't he? And that winds me up as well. I still don't understand why you get the stomping... Every game, Resi 8 has it as well. There's a particular person in that will start stomping around. You've got to run away. And it just makes trying to clear the bloody maps really annoying. It's like, I need to check this fucking hall to turn it from red to blue on the map so that I know that I've got everything. Stop following me around, you crazy bint. You know what I mean? Hey... There was a bit of a clue there, actually. Anyway, loved it. If you have any doubts about Resi 8 because of Resi 7, don't. It's not the same kind of game at all. Like, it's going to rock your socks off. It really is. It's really, really good. Absolutely loved it, and I will absolutely be playing that game again, most likely on the PlayStation 5, probably as another run-through, and see if I can unlock unlimited, because they have the whole unlimited ammo thing if you can unlock it and all that, don't they, in the Resi games? Well, they're doing this one again. And then if I don't do that, I'll absolutely be buying it for the Xbox Series X at some point, just get a cheap copy and in the future, just an excuse to play through it again. So there you are. I mean, I would give Resi 2 Remake an 8, and I would give Resi 8 a 9. I really want to give it a 10. But the only reason I can't is because there was just that last section that frustrated me a little bit. I'm going to give it a 9.5. There, I've said it. You can't take it back now. It's my channel. I can say what I like. Resi 8's a 9.5 out of 10 from me. And it only lost that 0.5 because of the industrial section at the end, which wound me up a little bit. But it was absolutely fantastic. Superb game. Superb. It's going to be a lot. It's going to take a big game to knock that off my number 1 spot. And Aaron Brew had exactly the same opinion as me. He loved it, and also loved the main character as well. So if you hear anybody saying that the main character is not any good, I disagree, and so did Aaron Brew. So I do not stand alone. So there you are, people. That's it. That's all I have for you. I say that it's been nearly a bloody hour, people. I only had about 5 things on my list. You don't half let me go on, people. You know what I mean? Right. Well, I need to go away and edit all of this together with whatever fine footage I can find for you. And then I'll probably have a few more of these watching the Eurovision Song Contest, because you have to, because it makes it sound better. And I'll sit and enjoy that tonight with a bit of music. And there you are, the sun's still beaming through, and it's 6:30 of the evening. So there you are. This is Flagging Up Saturday, but by the time I get it all edited together, then render it and put it up, it might be midnight by the time it hits. So you might be watching this on a Sunday. Or you might be watching it through the week. A lot of people watch my videos through the week at some point. There's all the big hitters have their videos before me. So, I like to think that people save the best for last. It's like, I've watched all the good stuff now. What else can I watch? Oh, yeah, Joystick Steve. He had his video up. There you are, people. I don't know, I like downing myself. Flagging's up to you all once again. I'm still going to show the glass off. It has been, yes it has, an honour and a privilege serving for you once again in this vlog of mine. And I shall see you in the next one, folks. Take it easy. Bye.